Morning, everybody. It's 8:10 a.m. It is October 10th. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my channel. Now, yesterday we had balance rules in play again in the S&P 500. Okay, we made all-time highs and then went all the way back to the previous day's lows. All right, so essentially we had to look above and fail. Okay, um, so a couple things about yesterday. I was live in my Discord, and I kept saying the story is a look above and fail. We should go back down to the previous day's lows. I did have a short that I was eyeing up at like 67.88s. Tested the most traded price of the week. That's what I said yesterday pre-market. I said, and we got it. I almost pulled the trigger, but I didn't. Then I was saying in my Discord that Nasdaq had to take out the 252s and find acceptance below it, right? In order for this market to move lower. Okay, so tech was not strong yesterday, but it was not super weak. That was the thorn in the side of the market to go lower. That's why it didn't go lower. Okay. Now, when we were bottom, kind of made a double bottom in the markets, I went long. I went long. Okay, beautiful trade. I pretty much didn't take any heat. Started pushing back up. Now I knew that my target, because I have a preset 3-to-1 when I throw my trade on, probably was a little too high. And I said it while I was live. I said, I'm going to get some problems here before my target. And I knew the market was not strong. And what did I do? I came close to my target and it didn't hit it and hit my break even. So even though I was up probably close to 2.5 to 1 at one point, that sucks. I got nothing to show for it. And this is just data collection for me, 3-to-1, right? Now, if I had to do it again today and had the same situation, I'm going to bring my target to a realistic target. And if I get 2.5 to 1 or so, so be it, because then I walk away with some money, right? The whole thing about me sticking with this is I don't want to make a lot of decisions once I'm in a trade. I want to make a decision to go to break even or it hits my target, right? So, because I know the death of a trader is thinking the what ifs. What if I held? Oh, I shouldn't have scaled out because now it's going to my target. Oh, I shouldn't have, right? Been there, done that. And I don't want to have that thought in my head. And I'm getting really at peace with just like, all right, it's got to hit my target. Because in the past, I'd be like, wow, I'm up 2-to-1. Wow, I'm up 2.5 to 1. Man, that's open P&L's looking nice. That open P&L's looking nice, right? But now I'm at peace with it. It's just yesterday, I knew before I put that on when I saw my target that was probably could have problems, and it did. Didn't hit it. That actually could have been the short, or my trade didn't make it, right? It's because then we went ahead and broke the lows. Okay. Now, on top of that, if you look at my Discord, knowing the internals like I do, gamma levels like I do, I went ahead and I waited for it to break the previous day's lows. And I was like, you know what? I don't think we're going lower here. Nasdaq's holding 252. It's just I don't think I don't see it going lower. So I threw a credit spread on. Now my credit spread took its time, boy. Right? But credit spread, it doesn't when you have a tight five spread credit spread, it's not very violent. So like it gives you time. And I was watching it. I got to get my daughter off the bus, and I'm like, I'm watching it. I'm watching it, and I'm like, all right. It popped up, and I'm like, all right. I'm gonna set kind of like a stop loss at break even. So if it's either break even or it's going to go to zero, which in credit spread you want your spread to go to zero because you're selling, right? So it was moving up. You could see it later in the day, moving up. And what did I do? I made a mistake and I put the close the order at my 215 debit, which was not the right thing to do at all. Because what that did, is I just told the market, fill me here or better. Because there's another way you could do a bracket order on the spread, where it's really this. I could have put that at like a limit order at 215 debit, where it had to go there. So as soon as I did that, it filled me, and I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like, ugh, God. So I made the 45 bucks out of the 215 I could have made. And what do you know? I would say 15 minutes to 20 minutes later, the spread was at zero. The spread was at zero. So here's a journey of a trader that I'm telling you, right? So yesterday, I could have possibly got 500 and something dollars in my futures trade, right? If I had the right target. And then if I didn't make a mistake with my credit spread, that would have been another $215. So all I had to show for yesterday was 45 bucks, which is not a loss, but that's being a trader, right? So I'm looking at the market's good. I'm using my credit spreads, right? And I'll get into why I did that too, okay? But I just wanted to share that with you guys because that's just, damn. And whoever was live with me in Discord saw that trade took off like a rocket. It wasn't even, it was a beautiful trade. And I have nothing to show for it, right? Except I know I'm reading the market right. You know, I can say that. I am reading the market right. All right. So, with that little soliloquy, let's get started here. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is how I come up with game plans. That is my edge. Okay. I use anchored VWAPs to tell me who's in control. I use market internals to let me know what's going on under the hood once the market opens. Once the market opens. Okay. Bookmap helps me execute, and my weekly expected move lets me know the ranges that are set for important tickers. Okay? Important tickers. All right. Now, hopefully, you guys subscribe. All right? Sudden alert. Let me be your morning coffee, tea, water, podcast, whatever I am, because I'll give you the news, the market story, the leaders and the laggards, the economic calendar. I am going to tell you why the market's doing what it's doing. Not going to fluff you up with predictions, right? Because nobody can predict the markets. If they do, that's a snake oil salesman. Okay? Nobody predicts markets. Now, don't get me wrong. Can I say a scenario should happen? Yes, but I'm not predicting. I'm not telling you we're going to have a crash. Okay? Because if someone keeps telling you we're going to crash, they're eventually going to be right. And then what? You're going to hear that they're right? That doesn't mean anything. Okay? That doesn't mean anything. Once you put a trade on, nobody knows what's going to happen. Okay? Nobody. All right? Now, if you want more in-depth coverage from myself, you are going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. All right? Click on my YouTube homepage, sign up. What are you waiting for? Okay? What are you waiting for? And, you know, if you join my Discord, I think you get a lot of gold here. You get my live market updates, right? I'm in this Apple short right now, and it's paying, so it's in the money. So I'm hoping Apple really tanks. You can see Apple here just to show you. Big base for weeks and weeks and weeks. And that candle right here, you get a nice, almost a bearish engulfing candle yesterday. Needs to break this 253 like I put right here, right there. Okay? Needs to break the 253s. We're right there. This should be a nice move lower. I have an expiry. It expires next Friday. Okay, so that's one of the trades that I'm in. Okay, now you got my trade from yesterday. Look at this trade. Right, I'm in 4-point stop. This thing went all the way up the VWAP. Oh, now that I'm looking at that, it even makes me more sad. I really didn't realize. So my thought was VWAP, right? VWAP, which now I'm looking at it, it literally was like, what was that? A point away from my target. That would have been a beautiful trade. So I could have put my target at VWAP or to VPOC and should have been happy with it. Okay? But that is my mistake. I should have took this target and brought it right there and been happy with that. But I didn't. I didn't because I'm trying to be disciplined with my target. And I thought possibly we could take out that swing high, right? And at least go up to 60, 90. So I was like, and VWAP was here. It was just, I should have just did that and said, you know what? I'll take it if it hits VWAP. And it did hit VWAP later on. Okay. And you can see I almost stopped. All right. So also you get here my weekly expected move indicator for free. You get my trade reflections. I talked about my trade. You get my weekend outlook where I tell you my plays that I'm looking at of the weekend. Trade recaps. I still have one coming. I got to edit it for the trade. I should have had another one coming from yesterday because that trade was nice too, but I can't. Right? All right. So sign up. Alrighty. All right. Let's get into futures watch list here. Let's see what's moving markets. We're right at the snugly warm bed right now in the ES. That's your 67.90s. That's the most traded price of the week. That is pretty much in the middle of the balance. Horrible location. Okay. Silver continues to fly. I am not mad at that. I'm an owner of silver. Continues to fly. Loving it. Loving it. Wish I had more. But on a nasty pullback, I'll try to add some. All right. We have gold up 0.3. 30-year bonds being bought. That should send yields lower. Bitcoin's up 0.48. Russell's up 0.37. Ethereum's up 0.32. VIX is up 0.24. The Dow is up 0.19. Nasdaq's up 0.16. ES is up 0.15. Dollars down 0.24. 10-year yields are down 1.16%. Crude is falling. Crude is falling. Now, I'm probably going to put an options trade on crude. Broadcom up 0.94. That thing is a wild monster. Boy, that's a wild beast. That's a wild beast, folks. Nvidia is up 0.70. Boeing up 0.65. Eli Lilly up 0.57. Tesla's up 0.34. Now, laggard. Obviously, I'd like to see Apple is still below yesterday's close. I'm loving that. At a key level, though, I'm hoping that doesn't get bought and just rips lower if that market has weakness, because that would definitely make my spread expand. And I'll probably look to take a piece off today if we get some farther movement. I'll probably take one of my spreads off, and that will be good, right? AMD down 0.21 after a meteoric rise. Amazon down 0.24. So nothing really special there, right? Top sectors here. Oracle is up 2%. And the laggard is Qualcomm. They have some antitrust thing in China or something like that, which usually at the end of the day doesn't mean much. All right, so moving on to the granular list here. Lennar, home builders, that is up 4.34%. Vertiv, jeez, I own Vertiv. My lord, I owned it at like $60. I took some off at like the 150s. Boy, it is. Did it report earnings or something? I'm not aware. No, maybe it's an earnings run up. But it's data center build outs, basically. My lord. All right. What else? Viking Therapeutics, Marvels. All right. Let's see laggards today. Tilray, Alibaba, Humana. All right. Nothing really to see there. Nothing really to see. Oop. Sectors. Oh, look at that. Semis leading the pack up 129. Followed by technology up 0.27. The laggard is energy. No surprise there. All right, let's move on to the economic calendar. Here's our economic calendar. Boom. We actually have something on the docket today. We have Michigan consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. This moves markets. Okay? So, as usual, when we have like a data come out, usually a lot of times I have a perfect setup setting up, and I'm like, you really? Really? I gotta wait for 10 a.m.? So I will wait for the dust to settle, 10:05, 10:10, to then look at the market. It is Friday. It is Friday. All right? Volume's pretty good right now. So, um, that's that. Now let's look at the juice here. Sure, we got Trump doing anything today? Let's see. Fed's Goolsby speaks at 9:45. Trump speaks at 5. That doesn't mean nothing. All right, so not much. Not much. Let's see if there's any red here. So this is interesting. Microsoft forecasts show data center crunch persists into 2026. Microsoft's data center crunch will continue for longer than the company has previously outlined, underscoring the software giant struggles to keep up with cloud demand. Many of Microsoft's U.S. data center regions are encountering shortages of physical space or servers, according to people familiar with the company internal forecast. New subscriptions for Azure cloud services are restricted in some crucial server farm hubs, including North Virginia and Texas, through the first half of the year. Okay, interesting. Now, I have a play that I think I might be doing a short of Microsoft. Okay, I'll explain to you guys that in a little bit. Um, what else we got going here? Let's look at some stock news here. Some stock news here. What do we have today? All right, here we go. All right, shares of Applied Digital surged more than 22% in pre-market trading after the data center services provider posted better than anticipated fiscal first quarter revenue. Demand for data centers has skyrocketed as more businesses ramp to snap up the computing power needed to fuel their AI capabilities. That's probably why Vertiv is pushing up. Okay, data Vertiv, which I told you guys I own, is like power supplies, cooling. Um, so loving that. Let's say Levi's, Strauss and Company raises full-year revenue and profit forecast as reported strong quarterly result, helped by solid demand for its Zen offerings and strong direct-to-consumer sales. But shares tumbled by over 6%. All right, let's see here. Elastic jumped more than 8% after the software firm raised its annual guidance for, I never even heard of this place, second time in 2 months, and unveiled a 500 million share purchasing program. Here's the Qualcomm Semiconductor Group Qualcomm dip amid an investigation by China into a potential breach of antitrust regulations. U.S. listed shares in Stellantis climbed before the bell on Wall Street after the car-making giant reported that third quarter global vehicle shipments grew more than 30%, 13% from a year ago. All right, there's some stock news. Let's look at some more news here. Let's see. China tightens checks on NVIDIA AI chips at major ports. Tesla's September China made EV sales rise 2.8% on the year. That doesn't seem to matter too much for Tesla right now. Tesla's kind of balancing right now. Blah, 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 blah. China's stocks pull back after a decade high. Hong Kong shares extended their losing streak. Okay. Just looking at more news, folks. PepsiCo, 5% to raise its target price to 162 from 160. I like that. I'm an owner of PepsiCo. PepsiCo just had earnings beat. Let's see if that can move up that staple. Okay. I think we're good here. Let's go into breath real quick. Breath. Breath. Woof. Now, what I did notice yesterday, the overall market kind of had some weakness. Now look at the breath. 44% of stocks are above the 20-day simple moving average. All right, now we're starting to go lower. That's just one day, but that's better than middling. Okay? So very, very, very interesting. Right? Let's look at the bullish percent index real quick. I haven't looked at those in a while. Let's just see where they're at. Now this is the bullish percent index of the SPX, the S&P 500. So 58% of stocks are on buy signals. All right, notice the frothy numbers here. So over 75, 80 is very frothy. And then you get down here, and that means you should buy that market. All right, so let's look at the NY, the NYSE. This is the stock exchange. All right, let's look at the NYC, the NYSE. 58. Oh, interesting. 58%. 58% at buy signals. Let's look at the NASDAQ 100. There 59% are on buy signals. All right, and let's go at the end. We'll just go to the NASDAQ composite. Oof, the NASDAQ composite. Interesting. They are at a frothy level here, folks. 61% on buy signals. You know why? Every day I see the NASDAQ exchange getting 2-to-1 volume going into up stocks versus down stocks. That's been happening pretty consistently. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. The NASDAQ is getting kind of frothy. All right. Now, we're going to move on. Let's move on. We will go to daily charts. Alrighty. Let's look at this. Not sure who's with me today. Haven't seen Rosita this week. I don't think she's been very busy. Maybe Colerion is here. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, folks. So let's zoom in here. Balance, and then we tried to break out. Yesterday we did, and then we failed and came all the way back to see where we went to, folks. Right to Friday's close. That black line was last Friday's close. We closed within last week's range. That's the orange lines. This is last month's highs, the whites. We still didn't hit the 9 EMA daily. Okay, that's what's going on there. So this is just at a standstill. Okay, where are we at now? 672.14, 672.14. This is what I was talking about. Right in the middle of the range. Horrible place to be. I mean, not the worst, because we know we're at the most traded price of the week. Let's look at futures. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. Yeah. All right, so in futures, look, right there, 67.90 is the most traded price of the week. We'll get into that in the hourly charts, but we're just in the middle of the muck here, folks. Not a good place to be. Now, if you're talking about balance rules, well, look, we came from here again. We might just do this again today. Because if this market follows the balance rules, let me get my marker out. I'll tell you one thing. Not that I've just learned this, but that story, that narrative is so powerful. Okay? When you're in balance, it's very powerful. Why, right? Because let's say we just have a balance range here, and we know that, right? It's established. Let's say it's established, right? And let's say you wanted to go, all right, how do I trade a balanced range? Right? Because even in this 3-day balance, right? You could have been like, okay, so let's say we opened here, closed here. So you could have said, okay, we're at the top of balance. I think I want to short it. And we should return to the bottom of the balance. Whoop. Then you could have been like, all right, we're at the bottom of balance. Let's say when the market opened here. You could have been like, what? You know what? We probably should go back to the top of balance. Oh, we did. Oh, wait a minute. We broke balance. wait a minute, we're going back into range. We should go back to the bottom of balance. See what I'm talking about, right? And every time you're down here, it looks like we're going to fall. That's price action. That's emotions, right? Every time we're here, are we going to break out? And then it's, oh, we're breaking out. I'm not shorting that. And then what happens? Right? So what am I saying? The market has to prove that when we went down yesterday and we got bought, I say the odds are we probably do this today. Now, can you have a day where all of a sudden we fail here and we go back? You could, but it's, follow what the market's doing until it's not. This is not a good area to be in. So we could do a little games. We could actually do this and then do this, right? I don't know. But I'm just giving you the facts, folks. All right? That's how you have to look at that narrative. Because if you don't look at that narrative and you're just like, I'm shorting, I'm longing in the middle of the range, or whatever, you're doing yourself a disservice. You have to have, I like to say, I always say the stories, right? Right now, again, my boy Documents, he's a scalper. Story really doesn't matter, right? He's going for ticks and little points, right? Scalpers don't matter. But like for me, I don't have to capture a whole move. I don't have to go from the highs to the lows. If my stop is 4 or 3 points, I only need 12 points, 9 points. I'm done. So that's not a scalp, but that is not a huge move. Okay? Some people are intraday swing traders, which they need a bigger part of the move. But my point is, it's good to categorize markets and to know, hey, this generally happens in this type of market, right? Otherwise, what are you doing? If you can't classify days or the current story, right? The current story. So look at the cues. It's different, right? Because you have a balance area here that we broke, right? And then look what the market did. You did have a look above and fail. We opened here, started to go back inside the balance. Now, generally, when you do that, you go back to balance. And that's very bearish usually. But what did this little NASDAQ do? Held the previous week's highs. Also, that's the 252 level in the Qs, in the NASDAQ futures. Okay? And then hammer time. So, this AI stuff is pretty powerful, okay? So, that's pretty crazy. That is a sign of strength, right? So, now, let's look at futures. And we'll talk about that 252, right? So, here's our futures. There's the 252. I talked about that relentlessly in my pre-market stream yesterday and in my Discord yesterday. Got to defend it. It did. It did. And now look, we got a little doji. Just not the best location. Okay? Not the best location. So, and this is kind of crazy because what is tech doing? Tech switches every day. It's relatively weak. It's relatively strong. I think this day it was relatively strong. This is each day it kind of changes. Okay? Each day it kind of changes. All right? So, that's it for there. All right? Now, what am I going to talk? Oh, we got some strong buying that just came in. I just saw on time and sales flash. Aggressive buyers. Now, what am I going to talk about now? All right, I can show you real quick. Apple. I'm going to show you my Apple. Hey, watch. Pay attention. Hold on a second. I'm just saying goodbye to my daughter. Hey, watch where you put your hands. Okay? Alrighty. Let's go into what I was going to show you. Let's bring up my other chart here. Let's resize this guy. I'm going to show you what I'm looking at here. And I'm going to show you first my Apple. Had a very bearish day yesterday. And I just want to show you, that's the most traded price. I've showed, I believe this week, 256, right? And Apple almost made all-time highs here. And that was my thought. IV was low, so cheap puts were cheap. So it broke way under that level now. And you're testing this level. Okay? Breaks this. Look at all this consolidation. That's why I love Apple. Let's go to a daily chart real quick. And you can see the balance that it's had. And we broke the 9 EMA daily here, and just need to break the 253s. 20-day simple movers. Right here is poor structure. Next week we could be here, or today we could drop if the market gets weak, which I don't know if it will or not. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. Now, as far as Microsoft, let's talk about it. Why I like it. All right, let's go to Microsoft. That's not Microsoft. Okay. So you know how I was just talking about the balance rules, right? And I look above and fail, right? So that's what we have in Microsoft. So here's your balance. And you can see it by the most traded price of the month is 511. The most traded price of this week is like 524. The market, look what it did. Coiled up. Microsoft broke out. Came back here to the breakout point. Got bought, but then sold off back into balance. Okay? A look above and below, above and fail. If we start to do this, I'm going to get short Microsoft, because what's going to happen is all the longs are going to take it, and what are you going to do? You're going to go back to the other side of balance at 505. At 505. So I have an order set up to take advantage of that. Now, do I know if that's going to happen? Hell no, I don't know. But look at the daily chart right now. My daily charts have this is the base. They're always a rolling year chart. And you can see the high volume node here. Okay, really high volume. Now the most traded price of the rolling year is 415, but this is also a big boy right there, 511. 511 is a high volume node over the last 3 months. This is just could take over the most traded price of the year. You can see it's all the way out here, right? So what's my thoughts, right? Is look at that consolidation. And it finally did something, right? Now look, it pulled back. Now this, some people could look at that as a buy, right? Pulled back to a key level, and it might launch. But I'm gonna watch it, because if we start to creep back, like I said, we should go back to 505s, and if we break that, we should go lower. And one of these weeks, we're gonna get a pullback. We're just not gonna keep going up all the way until Christmas. That doesn't work like that. We're gonna get a pullback. So let's see. I don't know. Like I said, I don't predict. All right. So with that being said, let's get right into market internals real quick. All right. Here's our market internals recap. Yesterday was very weak. Well, let me clarify that. It was weak. Overall weak. Look at all the sectors. All pink or red. Right? Oh, and I can explain you my gamma level stuff. Okay. So from the jump, pretty much was weak. Okay, pretty much was weak, and you can see the S&P advanced decline was minus 265. That's a little more bearish than I've seen this past week. Look at the Nasdaq exchange, still positive. Now, at the beginning of the day, it was up to 2.2, a ratio of 2 to 1. Again, that's why that Nasdaq composite is on a little frothy. Okay, so this is what happened. Now, I'm going to show you my ticks real quick. Well, ticks most of the day were red, and that's very bearish. Okay, I don't have to really show you, but that's what that was. Now, so this was kind of weak, right? We stayed low. Now, look, equal weight. This is where I was talking about. This line equal weight is all these sectors just no market cap. Wait, just equal, as if they were all equal. You see how that was divergent, right? It was weaker than the market cap, but market cap is how our market works. So this is because tech was not that weak. It's hard to go down, right? So what was my thought here? I was like, I want to wait to break the lows and see how it react. And then I put on a SPX credit spread here at the 670, 67.25s. I really should have got this 20s, to be honest with you. I should have got in them here, but that's okay. I got in the 25s. Okay. And I just had to finish above this 25. And once it did that, my spread right here was worth 0. I could have took it all off. Now, why did I do that? Right? I just explained to you that I didn't think the market was going to go lower. Now, this is why. See this negative gamma level, 67.20, also 670 in the SPY. That is a negative gamma level for the month. Negative gamma levels are violent. They cause volatility, and they can be supportive. So I said, you know what? This is worth the risk, and that's when I made the mistake right around here. I made the mistake of that order mistake I made. But that's the reason I took it, because of that gamma level. And also in the SPY, in the QQQ, which right here, 670 was a negative gamma level also. Notice the volatility through this level. That's why that was doing that. And then it finally, whoop. Okay? Just wanted to explain that, guys, to you. Now, moving on to the hourly charts. Man, my computer's loud today. All right. Let's go to hourlies. Let's talk about the hourlies. All right. Now, I would say we might be visiting this bottom today. Okay. Got a lot of stack supply zones. 67.90 is our most traded price of the week. And it's acting as resistance. Boop, boop, boop. And if we take out that swing low here, we should go back to the bottom of balance, last month's highs. And then what do we do for there? We either go back, bounce up, or we really rip and go down. Okay? So, that is your line in the sand, folks. Okay? Now, let me clarify. Let's say the market does this. It does pull back from here. And it goes like really quickly, let's say off the open. And it does something like this, and then this, and then it starts to do that. I would say there's a good shot we start moving back, probably up to here. I don't know if we can make this move today. Back to the top of balance. About right here. Okay, that's how it works. And of course, I only know that based on the market internals and stuff. Now, month-to-date anchored VWAPs right here, that means buyers are in control of the month. Okay, buyers are in control of the month. Trying to look at the week-to-date anchored VWAP here. Week-to-date anchored VWAP is right there, and buyers are in control of the week. That's how I gauge what market the anchored VWAPs. Okay. Well, you know what that meant. I just got an alert with crude. You can see it right here. Options play. So that means crude just broke a level. I'll just show you that right here real quick. There it is. Boom. This is a 4-hour chart. So, because crude's in a big balance here. So that I just got an alert here. So I want to see more weakness here. And I might do what's called a risk reversal in options futures, okay? Which I'll do some kind of selling of puts and do a bull call spread and go long. So that will fund my spread. Because that's a big level in crude. Okay? So it's already wicking. I have to see how that plays out. Okay? Now, moving on to the NASDAQ futures. You have a different... Oop. Hold on a second. Did I just mess that up?